The day started like any other for Lieutenant Jack Morgan aboard the USS Dauntless. He sat at his communication station, monitoring the usual chatter from Earth and the colony planets. The Dauntless was a mid-sized exploration vessel with a crew of 200, patrolling the edges of human space near the Tau Ceti system. Jack had been with the crew for 3 years, and space patrol had become routine until today. "Sir, I'm picking up an unusual signal," Jack said, adjusting his headset. The strange pulses came in perfect intervals, too perfect to be natural. "It's not matching any known human patterns." Captain Greg Boyd moved to stand behind Jack's station. He was a stern man with 20 years of service, but even he couldn't hide his interest. "Source? Coming from the outer reaches of the system, sir. It's moving." The bridge crew fell silent. Humanity had wondered about alien life for centuries, but despite colonizing several nearby star systems, they had found only simple organisms. Nothing intelligent, nothing that could build ships. "Alert status yellow," ordered Boyd. "And get me Admiral Harrison." Admiral Kate Harrison's face appeared on the main screen within minutes. Her expression remained calm, but Jack noticed how she sat straighter in her chair at Earth Command. "Captain Boyd, tell me about this signal." As Boyd explained, Jack continued analyzing the transmission. There was something almost musical about it, a pattern that seemed to repeat with slight variations. By the time the captain finished his report, Jack had run it through every decryption algorithm in the system. "Sir Admiral," Jack interrupted, "I think it's a language." Harrison raised an eyebrow. "Lieutenant?" "The pattern shows all the markers of a communication attempt. They're reaching out." 3 hours later, the Dauntless crew watched in awe as 5 sleek vessels appeared at the edge of their scanner range. The ships moved with impossible grace, their hulls shimmering with an iridescent material unlike any human alloy. They were beautiful and terrifying. Jack's console lit up with a new signal. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies now, sir." "Put it through," Boyd ordered. A series of melodic tones filled the bridge, followed by broken words in various human languages. The aliens were trying to communicate using radio transmissions they had intercepted from Earth. After days of careful exchanges and primitive translation attempts, the aliens identified themselves as the Zalari, representatives of a galactic council that spanned hundreds of star systems. They requested a formal meeting with Earth's leaders. The first face-to-face contact happened in Earth's orbit aboard a neutral space station. Jack found himself chosen as part of the diplomatic team due to his breakthrough with the initial communications. He stood nervously beside Admiral Harrison as the airlock cycled and the Zalari delegation entered. The aliens stood nearly 7 feet tall, with slender bodies covered in what looked like finely woven silver threads. Their faces had 4 eyes positioned in a diamond pattern, and they moved with fluid grace that made them seem almost weightless. "We welcome Earth to the greater community," said the lead Zalari, its words translated through a device on its chest. "We have watched your development with interest." The meetings continued for weeks. The Zalari shared limited information about their technology, enough to dazzle Earth scientists, but never enough to truly understand how it worked. They spoke of peace and cooperation, of cultural exchange and mutual growth, but something didn't feel right to Jack. Late one night, while reviewing translation logs in his quarters, Jack noticed discrepancies in how certain words were being interpreted. Military terms were consistently mistranslated in ways that downplayed Zalari capabilities. References to their home systems were vague, coordinates never quite matching up. "Admiral Harrison needs to see this," he muttered, collecting his notes. But Commander Liz Warren, his direct superior and second in command of the diplomatic team, disagreed when he brought his concerns to her the next morning. "You're being paranoid. Lieutenant, these are minor translation errors, nothing more. The Zalari have been nothing but helpful." Warren dismissed him with a wave. "If you bring this conspiracy theory to the Admiral, you'll damage your career and possibly our relations with the first intelligent species we've encountered." Jack returned to his station but couldn't shake his unease. During dinner in the station's mess hall, he noticed how the Zalari envoys always ate separately, how they watched the humans with their upper eyes while pretending to focus elsewhere, with their lower ones. 1 week later, Jack was working a night shift when the station's sensors detected unusual energy readings from the 5 Zalari ships. They had moved into a formation that gave them clear firing lines to Earth's orbital defense platforms. "Command, this is Lieutenant Morgan. I'm tracking unusual power spikes from the Zalari vessels. Request immediate." The lights flickered as the first energy beam struck the station. Alarms blared throughout the corridors as more beams lanced out toward Earth's defenses. Through the observation window, Jack watched in horror as human defense satellites exploded in silent flashes. "This is Admiral Harrison to all personnel. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack." Jack ran toward the command center, passing panicked diplomats and crew members. When he arrived, Harrison was already coordinating Earth's response. The planet's defense forces were scrambling, but they were caught completely unprepared. "Our weapons aren't penetrating their shields," reported one officer, his face pale in the emergency lighting. Jack watched the tactical display as human laser batteries fired at the Zalari ships. The energy beams simply dissipated against the alien shields, not even leaving a mark. "Missiles having no effect either, Admiral. They're intercepting them before impact." More Zalari ships appeared from jump points beyond the moon, hundreds of them, spreading out to encircle Earth. The invasion had begun, and humanity's most advanced weapons were proving useless. As the station shuddered from another hit, Jack made his way to the evacuation pods. Before entering one, he doubled back to his quarters and grabbed his personal bag. Inside was his grandfather's revolver, a .45 caliber relic that had been in his family for generations. His fellow officers had laughed when they discovered he brought it aboard, an ancient firearm in an age of energy weapons. No one was laughing now. The escape pod jettisoned from the dying station, carrying Jack and 5 others toward the chaos of Earth below. Through the small viewport, he watched the Zalari ships methodically destroying Earth's defenses, their laser weapons slicing through human technology with terrifying ease. The pod crashed in what remained of a Chicago park. The city around them was already showing signs of attack. Buildings toppled, fires raging, and the distinctive flash of Zalari energy weapons in the distance. "What do we do now?" asked a young diplomatic aide, her voice shaking. Jack checked his grandfather's revolver, confirming it was loaded, and tucked it into his belt alongside his standard-issue laser pistol. "Now," he said, looking at the smoke-filled sky, "we survive, and then we fight back." 3 months passed since the Zalari invasion began. Jack Morgan and his small group of survivors had found shelter in the remains of an old subway station beneath Chicago. Their numbers had grown to 36 people, a mix of military personnel and civilians who had managed to avoid capture. The underground tunnels provided some safety from Zalari patrols. Their alien sensors seemed to have trouble penetrating the layers of concrete and metal, giving humans rare places to hide. Jack checked his grandfather's revolver for the 3rd time that day, counting the bullets they had left. Ammunition for conventional weapons was becoming as valuable as food and medicine. "Any luck with the radio?" Jack asked Lisa Gomez, a former communications specialist who was trying to contact other resistance groups. "Nothing new," she replied, adjusting the dial on their makeshift radio. "But the signal from Detroit is still broadcasting. They're saying something big is happening there." Jack was about to respond when the heavy metal door to their hideout slid open. Diana Fletcher entered, followed by her scouting team. Diana had been a police sergeant before the invasion, and her knowledge of the city had saved their lives more than once. "We found something," Diana said, dropping her pack on the floor. Or rather, someone. A thin man with wild gray hair and glasses stepped forward. His clothes were torn and dirty, but his eyes were sharp and alert. "This is Dr. Alan Pierce," Diana explained. "He was hiding in the Natural History Museum. He says he knows something about the Zalari shields." The group gathered around as Dr. Pierce spread out his notes on a table. Jack noticed the man's hands were covered in small burns and cuts. "I was studying physics at Northwestern University before the attack," Pierce explained. "When the invasion started, I managed to collect some damaged Zalari equipment. I've been analyzing it ever since." He pointed to his detailed drawings of Zalari armor and weapons. "Their entire defensive system operates on a frequency-dependent phase shift mechanism," he said. then paused at the confused looks. Sorry. In simple terms, their shields are specifically designed to stop energy weapons like our lasers. They absorb the energy, then disperse it harmlessly. Jack leaned forward. But what about physical attacks? Bullets, explosives? Dr. Pierce smiled for the first time. That's the key. Their shields are much weaker against physical objects. They can stop small, slow projectiles, but anything with significant mass or velocity can get through. Are you saying our old weapons might work better than our advanced ones? Asked Diana. Exactly, Pierce nodded. The Zalari come from a region of space where all advanced civilizations abandoned projectile weapons centuries ago. Their entire defensive strategy evolved against races that only use energy weapons. Jack looked down at his grandfather's revolver with new appreciation. What they had first seen as a disadvantage, Earth's continued use of physical ammunition alongside energy weapons, might actually be their greatest strength. We need to test this, Jack said. And if it works, we need to spread the word and gather every conventional weapon we can find. The next day, Jack led a small team to an area where Zalari patrols were known to operate. They set up in an abandoned office building with clear views of the street below. Jack positioned himself. By a broken window, his laser rifle and revolver both within reach. They didn't have to wait long. A Zalari patrol of 3 soldiers moved down the street, their silver armor gleaming in the sunlight. Jack took a deep breath and aimed his laser rifle. The red beam hit the lead Zalari directly in the chest. As Dr. Pierce had predicted, the alien's shield glowed briefly, absorbing and dispersing the energy without harm. All 3 Zalari immediately took defensive positions, scanning for the source of the attack. Now, Jack whispered. Diana aimed her hunting rifle, a simple bolt-action weapon she had retrieved from her apartment after the invasion. She fired once. The bullet struck the same Zalari Jack had hit with the laser. This time the alien staggered backward. Its shield flickered but failed to stop the bullet completely. The projectile didn't penetrate the armor underneath, but the impact was clear. The Zalari seemed confused, looking at each other as if trying to understand what had happened. They were used to energy weapons, not physical bullets. Jack raised his revolver and took careful aim at the damaged section of the lead alien's armor. He squeezed the trigger. The loud bang echoed through the empty streets. The .45 caliber bullet hit with much more force than Diana's lighter round. This time the Zalari's armor cracked. The alien fell to the ground while its companions fired wildly with their energy weapons. It works, Jack said in disbelief. It actually works. They retreated before more Zalari could arrive, but the test had been successful. Dr. Pierce's theory was correct. Conventional weapons were more effective against Zalari defenses than advanced energy weapons. Back at their hideout, Jack called everyone together. We need to find more ammunition and conventional weapons, he announced. Check gun stores, police stations, museums, anywhere that might have old firearms or bullets. What about the military bases? Someone asked. Too heavily guarded, Diana replied. But there are smaller armories throughout the city. And don't forget private collections. Many people kept antique weapons even after laser weapons became standard. Dr. Pierce had been working on a map, marking locations that might hold useful weapons. The Historical Society has a Civil War exhibition, he pointed out. Muskets and revolvers from the 1800s. They might still work if we can find the right ammunition. We should contact other groups, Lisa suggested. Share what we've learned about the Zalari shields. If everyone knows about this weakness, we can coordinate attacks. Jack nodded. And we need to start training. Most of us have only used energy weapons. Bullets have recoil, limited ammunition, and different aiming techniques. Over the next few weeks, the group gathered every conventional weapon they could find. They recovered revolvers from collectors' homes, hunting rifles from sporting goods stores, and even old military firearms from a small museum. Colonel Sam Winters, the highest-ranking military officer in their group, organized training sessions in the deeper tunnels where the sound wouldn't carry to the surface. Squeeze, don't pull, he instructed as people practiced with their unfamiliar weapons. And remember, you don't have unlimited shots like with a laser rifle. Make each bullet count. Word of their discovery spread to other resistance groups. Radio messages passed from city to city in code, explaining the Zalari weakness and urging others to abandon energy weapons in favor of physical ammunition. "We're going to take back our planet," Jack told the group one evening. "Not with advanced technology, but with the simple tools our ancestors used. The Zalari thought they had us beaten because their technology is more advanced. They never expected to face bullets in a laser war." 6 months into the occupation, Zalari Commander Vrak stood in his command center overlooking what was once downtown Chicago. The sleek silver structure had been built on the ruins of a human skyscraper, its curved walls and glowing blue lights a stark contrast to the damaged buildings around it. "Another patrol lost," Vrak said, his 4 eyes narrowing as he reviewed the report. "This is the 5th one this week." His second-in-command, Officer Malk, shifted uncomfortably. "The humans are becoming more organized, Commander. They're using different tactics now." "Explain," Vrax demanded. "Our sensors detect energy weapons being discharged, but the actual damage to our troops is being caused by something else." Malk brought up a holographic display showing damaged Zalari armor. "Physical impacts. Primitive projectile weapons." Vrax examined the image with disbelief. "They're using solid ammunition? Actual projectiles?" It seemed absurd. Every advanced civilization abandoned such primitive technology once they developed energy weapons. "Yes, Commander. The humans call them bullets." Vrax paced the room, his long fingers tapping against his leg. "Why would they keep using such outdated weapons? It makes no sense." "We believe it's their tendency toward redundancy," Malk suggested. "They never fully abandon older technology, even when they develop something better." This concept was foreign to the Zalari, who always pursued efficiency above all else. When better technology was developed, the old was discarded entirely. "Adjust our shield configurations," Vrax ordered. "These primitive weapons should not be a threat to us." Meanwhile, in the Appalachian Mountains, Jack Morgan had joined forces with a larger resistance group. After their success in Chicago, he and Dr. Pierce had been transported to this remote base to help coordinate a wider response to the Zalari occupation. The mountain base was home to nearly 200 fighters, operating from a network of natural caves and abandoned mine shafts. Large portions had been converted into living quarters, training areas, and workshops. "The message has spread to resistance cells across North America and Europe," Diana Fletcher reported during their morning meeting. She had become Jack's most trusted ally, her police background proving invaluable for organizing their growing forces. "Australia and parts of Asia are still difficult to contact, but we're working on it." Colonel Winters nodded with approval. "And weapons collection?" "Better than expected," replied Ben Collins, a young former park ranger who had become their quartermaster. His knowledge of local hunting cabins had led to significant weapon caches. "We've gathered over 300 conventional firearms and nearly 20,000 rounds of ammunition." The Zalari ignored gun stores and museums during their initial sweep, focusing on military bases instead. Jack spread a map across the table. "We need to coordinate our attacks. Small strikes at multiple locations, targeting their patrols and supply lines." Dr. Pierce joined them, carrying his latest notes. "I've been studying the Zalari communication patterns. They're adjusting their shields to better resist physical impacts, but they're struggling with the concept. Their entire military doctrine is built around energy-based warfare, which gives us time to press our advantage," Colonel Winters concluded. The resistance fighters organized into small teams, each equipped with a mix of weapons. Energy rifles were still used, but only to deplete the Zalari shields before follow-up. Attacks with conventional firearms. Old hunting rifles, police service weapons, and even antique revolvers were distributed among the fighters. Ben Collins led one such team into a small town that had been converted into a Zalari supply depot. His squad consisted of 5 fighters, each carrying both energy and projectile weapons. "Remember the plan?" Ben whispered as they took positions around the depot. "Amy hits them with the laser first, then everyone else fires bullets. Aim for the same target." Amy Wilson, a former competitive shooter, took careful aim with her energy rifle. The red beam struck the first Zalari guard, causing its shield to flare brightly as it absorbed the energy. Before the alien could respond, 4 bullets from different directions hit it simultaneously. The combined force overwhelmed the weakened shield, and the Zalari collapsed. The humans had learned that timing was crucial. The shields needed milliseconds to reset after absorbing energy. That brief window of vulnerability was all they needed. The remaining guards returned fire, their own energy weapons scorching the buildings around the human fighters. But the aliens were confused by the mixed attack pattern, unable to effectively shield against both energy and physical projectiles at the same time. Within minutes, the human team had secured the depot and began loading supplies into their vehicles. Ben found a stockpile of Zalari communication devices, which Dr. Pierce had specifically requested for his research. Package secured, Ben reported through their secure radio channel. Heading back to base, similar strikes were happening across the country and around the world. The resistance had found its strategy, and the tide was slowly turning. In his command center, Vrax received reports of increasing losses with growing alarm. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "They are primitives with outdated technology." "Officer," Malk displayed footage captured from a fallen Zalari soldier's helmet. "They're using their primitive weapons in conjunction with energy attacks. The energy depletes our shields momentarily, allowing the physical projectiles to penetrate." Vrax slammed his fist on the control panel. "Modify all shield generators, increase power to the kinetic barriers. It will reduce our energy defenses." "Commander," Malk warned. "Do it anyway. These humans cannot be allowed to believe they can defeat us." Back at the mountain base, Jack and Dr. Pierce reviewed the new information brought back by Ben's team. "The Zalari are adapting," Pierce said, examining the captured communication devices. "But they're making compromises. Their shields can't effectively block both types of attacks without sacrificing efficiency." Jack nodded, understanding the advantage this gave them. "They evolved past the need for redundancy. They can't comprehend why we would keep using bullets, even when we have lasers." Diana joined them, bringing news from other resistance cells. "The pattern is the same everywhere. Initial success using conventional weapons. Then the Zalari adjust, then we modify our tactics. It's becoming a constant cycle of adaptation." "That's where humans excel," Jack said. "Adaptation. We never put all our trust in a single technology. We keep our options open." Colonel Winters called everyone together that evening. Maps showing Zalari positions were displayed alongside reports from resistance groups worldwide. "For the first time since the invasion began," he announced, "we have pushed the Zalari back in multiple regions. They expected a quick surrender. Once our advanced weapons failed, they never expected to face our oldest weapons." A cheer went up from the gathered fighters. After months of hiding and surviving, they were finally fighting back effectively. Jack looked around at the faces of the resistance. Hope had replaced fear in their eyes. The humans were far from winning this war, but they had found their path forward by reaching back to the technologies their ancestors had relied upon for centuries. "The Zalari are learning a hard lesson," Jack said quietly to Diana as they watched the celebration. "Never underestimate a species that keeps a revolver handy even in a laser war." 9 months after the invasion began, Jack Morgan walked through the underground workshop that had been set up in the mountain base. The large chamber buzzed with activity as people worked at various stations. Some cleaned recovered weapons while others carefully measured gunpowder to make new ammunition. In the center of the room, Dr. Alan Pierce bent over a workbench covered with pieces of Zalari technology. Next to him stood a captured alien shield generator that had been taken apart and reassembled multiple times. "Any progress?" Jack asked, approaching the scientist. Pierce looked up and pushed his glasses back into place. "Significant progress. Look at this." He held up what appeared to be a normal bullet, but its tip gleamed with an unusual blue metal. "We've melted down damaged Zalari armor to create these. Their own material holds a charge that disrupts their shield frequency for a split second." Jack examined the bullet. "So these will be even more effective?" "At least 3 times more penetrating power," Pierce confirmed. The Zalari made their latest shield modifications 2 weeks ago. These bullets should counter those changes. The mere technological race between humans and Zalari had intensified over the past 3 months. Each time the aliens adjusted their defenses, the human resistance found new ways to overcome them. Diana Fletcher entered the workshop, her expression serious. "Colonel Winters needs everyone in the command center. We just got word from the Western resistance." Jack and Pierce followed her through the winding tunnels until they reached the large cavern that served as their operations center. Maps covered the walls, marked with red pins showing Zalari strongholds and green pins indicating human-controlled areas. Jack noticed with satisfaction that there were more green pins than the last time he had checked. Colonel Winters stood at the central table with several other resistance leaders. Among them was Commander Liz Warren, who had escaped from Zalari custody during a resistance raid in Canada. After learning how the aliens had manipulated the initial translations, she had become one of the most determined fighters against them. "We have intelligence about a Zalari research facility in New Mexico," Winters announced as everyone gathered. "They're developing new armor specifically designed to resist our projectile weapons." He pointed to satellite images showing a large structure surrounded by smaller buildings. "If they perfect this armor, we lose our advantage. We need to capture or destroy this facility before they can distribute the new armor to their forces." "What's the defense like?" Jack asked. "Heavy," Warren replied. "At least 30 Zalari guards with their latest shield technology, plus automated defense systems. A direct assault would be costly." "Maybe we don't need to go in guns blazing," Diana suggested. "What if we use their own thinking against them?" Everyone turned to look at her. The Zalari abandoned physical weapons because they thought energy weapons were superior in every way, she explained. "They still don't understand why we would use primitive technology. What if we use that blind spot?" The plan came together over the next 3 days. Select teams would infiltrate the area around the research facility using only conventional weapons, no energy signatures for Zalari sensors to detect. Meanwhile, a small group led by Jack would approach from the opposite direction, deliberately using energy weapons to draw attention. A week later, they put the plan into action. Jack, Diana, and 3 other fighters approached the facility from the south, occasionally firing laser rifles to ensure they were detected. "Sensors show multiple Zalari moving toward your position," Ben Collins reported through their radio. He was coordinating from a hidden position on a nearby hill. "Their attention is focused on you." Jack nodded to his team. "Keep moving. Make them think we're trying to sneak in badly." The Zalari responded exactly as hoped. Guards poured out of the facility, their advanced sensors locked onto the energy signatures from Jack's group. Their 4 eyes focused ahead, scanning for the human intruders they knew were coming. What they failed to notice was Diana's team, approaching silently from the north with simple bolt-action rifles and pistols, weapons that generated no energy signatures for the aliens to detect. "In position," Diana whispered into her radio. "Execute," Jack replied. Diana's team fired simultaneously. Their enhanced bullets, tipped with the repurposed Zalari metal, struck with devastating effect. The guards never had a chance to activate their shields, which were calibrated to detect and respond to energy weapons first. With the outer defenses neutralized, Jack's team rushed forward to join the assault. They entered the facility through service entrances, encountering minimal resistance as they pushed toward the central laboratory. Inside, they found what they were looking for: prototypes of the new Zalari armor and detailed specifications for its production. "Download everything," Jack ordered as Pierce connected portable drives to the Zalari computers. "And grab those prototypes. We need to know exactly what we're up against." As they worked, an alarm sounded throughout the facility. "Reinforcements. Incoming," Ben warned over the radio. "Multiple ships approaching from the east." "How long do we have?" Jack asked. 10 minutes, maybe less." Pierce finished downloading the data and packed the most important armor components. "Got what we need. Let's go." The team retreated through the facility, setting explosives as they went. They escaped minutes before Zalari reinforcements arrived, watching from a safe distance as the research center erupted in flames. Back at the mountain base, Dr. Pierce and his team analyzed the captured data and prototypes. "It's impressive," he admitted, examining the new Zalari armor design. "They've created a layered defense system. The outer layer is specifically designed to absorb bullet impacts, while the inner layer maintains the energy shield." "Can they mass-produce it?" Colonel Winters asked. "Not quickly," Pierce replied. "The materials are complex and require precise manufacturing. We've set them back months by destroying that facility." "But eventually they'll adapt," Jack said. "We need to stay ahead of them." Commander Warren studied the Zalari designs with a thoughtful expression. "These armor schematics might actually help us. Now that we know how they're trying to counter our bullets, we can develop new tactics." New workshops were set up throughout the base. Some teams focused on creating even more effective ammunition, while others worked on weapons that could deliver greater impact force. The gunsmiths experimented with different bullet designs, some intended to fragment upon impact with the new Zalari armor, others designed to drill through it. Meanwhile, resistance groups worldwide continued their coordinated attacks on Zalari positions. The aliens were forced to spread their forces thin, unable to effectively respond to the numerous small strikes happening simultaneously across the globe. For the first time, humans reclaimed entire cities. The resistance in New Mexico, led by Commander Warren, liberated a small town near the destroyed research facility. They established the first permanent human settlement free from Zalari control since the invasion began. Jack stood on a hillside overlooking the reclaimed town, watching as people worked to rebuild damaged structures and set up defenses. "We're pushing them back," Diana said, joining him at his observation point. "One bullet at a time." Jack nodded, his hand resting on the worn grip of his grandfather's revolver. "The Zalari are learning what it means to fight humans. We don't just rely on our latest technology, we use everything at our disposal." The war was far from over, but the balance had shifted. Humanity had found its strength not in matching the aliens' advanced technology, but in embracing the full spectrum of their military heritage, from the most sophisticated laser weapons to the simple, reliable firearms their ancestors had used for centuries. 1 year after the Zalari invasion began, Admiral Kate Harrison stood in what was once the Pentagon's main briefing room. The building had been partially rebuilt, its walls still showing scars from the initial attack. Around her stood the leaders of the global resistance, including Jack Morgan, Diana Fletcher, Dr. Alan Pierce, Colonel Winters, and Commander Warren. On the other side of the room, surrounded by human guards, stood Zalari Commander Vrax. His silver skin had lost its luster, and one of his 4 eyes was covered with a healing patch. He had been captured 3 days ago when resistance forces overran the Zalari Command Center in Chicago. "Your forces are retreating across the planet," Admiral Harrison said. "Your supply lines are broken. Your communication network is compromised. Tell me, Commander Vrax, what did the Zalari High Command miscalculate about humans?" Vrax's remaining eyes blinked slowly. "You were supposed to be easy to defeat. Your technology was inferior. Your weapons were no match for our shields." He gestured at the mix of weapons carried by the humans in the room. "And yet you carry energy rifles alongside those primitive projectile weapons. You use computers alongside paper maps. You maintain old technology even when you develop new ones. It makes no sense." "That's where you're wrong," Jack said, stepping forward. "It makes perfect sense to never fully abandon technology that works. We layer innovation upon tradition. These bullets may seem primitive to you, but they represent something your civilization forgot long ago. Redundancy ensures survival." Dr. Pierce approached, carrying a tablet displaying intercepted Zalari communications. "Their fleet is beginning a full withdrawal from Earth orbit," he announced. "The last ships will leave within 48 hours. A cheer went up from the humans in the room. After a year of desperate fighting, they had actually won, not through superior technology, but through adaptability and resourcefulness. Admiral Harrison silenced the celebration with a raised hand. "We've won this battle, but we need to prepare for what comes next." "Dr. Pierce, what have you learned from the Zalari databases we captured?" Pierce adjusted his glasses. which now had one cracked lens repaired with tape. The Zalari are part of a galactic council that includes 17 spacefaring species. All of them abandoned physical weapons once they developed energy-based alternatives. They've become specialized and, in the process, vulnerable. Our report to the council will be uncomfortable, Commander Vrax admitted. Humans utilize dual technological paths in warfare. Their ability to functionally revert to previous technological eras while maintaining advanced capabilities presents an unprecedented strategic challenge. Jack couldn't help but smile at the aliens' formal assessment. In other words, we kept our options open. Admiral Harrison turned to Colonel Winters. What's the status of our planetary defenses? We've begun integrating Zalari technology with our own, Winters reported. Their shield generators now protect our major cities, but we're keeping our conventional weapon systems fully operational alongside the energy-based ones. Commander Warren stepped forward with a tablet showing orbital scans. The last of the Zalari warships are leaving, but our satellites detect unusual activity at the edge of the solar system. More ships are gathering. The Council is deciding whether to classify humans as a threat, Vrax explained. My capture will only accelerate that process. Harrison's expression hardened. Are they planning another attack? Unknown, Vrax replied, but they will certainly be concerned about your species now. That evening, as the sun set over the partially rebuilt Washington, D.C., Jack stood on the roof of the Pentagon. The city showed signs of both destruction and renewal. Construction crews worked to clear rubble and repair buildings, while military teams installed captured Zalari shield generators on strategic structures. Diana joined him, carrying 2 cups of real coffee, a luxury that had become available again as supply lines reopened. What happens now? She asked, handing him a cup. Jack sipped the coffee before answering. We prepare. We learn from their technology, but we don't abandon our own. If the Galactic Council decides to come after us, we'll be ready. Dr. Pierce arrived next, followed by Colonel Winters and Commander Warren. They had all become close during the year-long struggle, forming a bond that went beyond mere military cooperation. I've been studying the Zalari power systems, Pierce said excitedly. We can adapt their faster-than-light technology to our ships within months. We won't be confined to our solar system anymore. And what will we find out there? Diana wondered. 17 species, all with the same technological blind spot, Warren replied. They all abandoned physical weapons too soon. Colonel Winters leaned against the railing. We should send diplomatic missions first. Try to establish peaceful contact with the Council. War should always be the last resort. Jack nodded in agreement. But we'll go prepared for anything. The group fell silent as they watched a distant point of light cross the darkening sky, one of the last Zalari ships leaving Earth orbit. My grandfather gave me this revolver when I joined the military, Jack said, touching the weathered weapon at his side. He told me to never fully trust technology that I couldn't fix with my own hands. I thought it was just old-fashioned advice. I never imagined it would help save humanity. The next morning, Admiral Harrison convened a global leadership meeting. Representatives from countries around the world gathered to discuss Earth's future strategy. The Zalari have withdrawn, but they've left us with both a warning and an opportunity, she began. We now know we're not alone in the universe, and that the other civilizations out there may see us as a threat. She displayed a hologram showing the captured Zalari technology that humans had already begun to adapt. We will advance. We will incorporate their technology into our own, but we will not make their mistake. Jack watched from the side of the room as Harrison outlined humanity's path forward, a blend of new discoveries and traditional strengths. The Zalari invasion had nearly destroyed human civilization, but it had also revealed humanity's unique advantage, their reluctance to abandon proven technology even when something seemingly better came along. As the meeting concluded, Jack approached Commander Vrax, who was being held under guard until decisions could be made about the Zalari prisoners. What will your council do when they receive your report? Jack asked. Vrax's eyes shifted to focus on Jack. They will fear you, a species that can adapt as quickly as humans, that maintains technological diversity rather than pursuing single-path advancement. It challenges everything they believe about progress. "We don't want war," Jack said. "We want to exchange knowledge, to learn and grow." "Perhaps that is possible," Vrax conceded. "But your species must understand that you are unusual. Your approach to technology is considered inefficient by council standards." Jack smiled and patted the revolver at his hip. "Sometimes the old ways work just fine." As Jack walked away, Vrax called after him. "Lieutenant Morgan, the day your grandfather gave you that weapon, he was wiser than he knew. It saved not just your life, but perhaps your entire species." Jack nodded, thinking of all the other outdated technologies that had proven crucial during the war. Paper maps when electronics failed, mechanical engines when computerized systems were hacked, and simple bullets when advanced energy shields made laser weapons useless. The day aliens learned why humans still carried bullets in a laser war was the day humanity secured its place among the stars, not as the most advanced civilization, but as perhaps the most adaptable one.